The Supreme Court has just dropped a political bombshell, and Keir Starmer's career is hanging by a thread. In an unprecedented, earth-shattering ruling, Britain's highest court has ordered the Prime Minister to resign after exposing a £124,000 scandal involving hidden income, luxury gifts, and a brazen attempt to silence his critics. This isn't just a crisis, it's a full-blown constitutional meltdown. And right now, the entire country is watching as Starmer's grip on power crumbles in real time. The United Kingdom is in chaos. Minutes ago, the Supreme Court delivered a verdict so explosive it has sent shockwaves through Westminster and left Keir Starmer's political future in ruins. In a historic televised address, Chief Justice Dame Sue Carr did not just criticise the Prime Minister, she demanded his resignation. Her words were brutal, final, and damning. No individual, not even the Prime Minister, is above the law. The ruling exposed a web of financial deceit, secret donor perks, and blatant abuses of power that have now pushed British democracy to the brink. At the heart of the scandal, a staggering £124,000 discrepancy in Starmer's property sale records, money that mysteriously vanished from tax filings. But that was just the beginning. The court had also revealed £39,000 in undeclared luxury gifts, designer suits, rare wines, even private flights, all funneled to Starmer by wealthy donors. Worse yet, evidence suggests he used his office to bully regulators into sidelining political rivals like Reform UK. This isn't just corruption, it's a full-scale assault on democracy itself. The reaction was instantaneous. Protesters flooded the streets. Opposition leaders called for immediate elections. Even Labour MPs turned on Starmer, with one branding him a disgrace in a red tie. But the Prime Minister isn't going quietly. In a defiant statement, he refused to step down, dismissing the court's order as politically motivated. That single act of defiance has now triggered a constitutional crisis, one that could redefine the balance of power in Britain forever. The Supreme Court's message was clear. Starmer is unfit to lead. But will he be forced out, or will he drag the country into uncharted chaos to cling to power? The next 24 hours will decide the fate of his premiership and the future of British democracy. The Supreme Court didn't just accuse Keir Starmer of misconduct, it laid out a damning paper trail proving he orchestrated one of the most brazen financial cover-ups in modern political history. Behind the polished image of Mr. Integrity, investigators uncovered a shadow network of offshore accounts, undeclared windfalls, and luxury kickbacks, all designed to keep his wealth hidden from public scrutiny. The £124,000 property discrepancy was only the tip of the iceberg. Forensic accountants traced payments through shell companies in Jersey and the Isle of Man, notorious tax havens Starmer himself once condemned. One transaction stood out: a £52,000 consulting fee from a shadowy firm linked to a defence contractor seeking government approval. No contracts, no invoices, just a wire transfer that reeked of influence peddling. But the real scandal wasn't just the money, it was the hypocrisy. While Starmer publicly crusaded against Tory tax dodgers, he was quietly accepting private jet flights, five-star hotel stays, and even a £15,000 in Rolex, all from billionaire donors like Lord Waqar Ali. These weren't gifts, they were investments. Leaked emails show Ali demanding policy adjustments in exchange for his generosity, and Starmer delivered, pushing through relaxed regulations for Ali's corporate empire while shutting down investigations into his tax affairs. The court called it a betrayal of public trust so severe it borders on corruption. Now the walls are closing in. Whistleblowers from inside Labour's finance team have come forward, revealing how Starmer's inner circle bullied staff into falsifying expense reports and shredding incriminating documents. One aide described a culture of fear. Question the money and you're gone. But the most explosive revelation? Starmer's team allegedly used government lawyers to threaten journalists digging into his finances. This wasn't just greed, it was a systemic plot to silence truth-tellers. The Supreme Court's verdict left no room for doubt. Starmer didn't just break rules, he weaponized his office to evade them. And as the evidence piles up, even his staunchest allies are fleeing. Senior Labour MPs are privately urging him to resign before the party implodes. Cabinet ministers are drafting no-confidence letters. The public, furious. Protesters outside Parliament chant, "Lock him up," while legal experts warn Starmer could face criminal charges if he clings to power. The money trail doesn't just lead to disgrace, it leads straight to prison. And with every passing hour, the noose tightens. The financial scandal alone would have destroyed most politicians, but Keir Starmer's abuses didn't stop with money. Buried in the Supreme Court's 287-page ruling was an even more chilling revelation. The Prime Minister had systematically abused his power to crush political opposition. Secret memos, leaked emails, and sworn testimony from broadcasting regulators prove Starmer's office launched a covert campaign to sideline Reform UK, using government machinery to manipulate elections and strangle democracy. The evidence is irrefutable. Just 6 weeks before last year's local elections, Starmer's top aides pressured Ofcom to ban Reform UK from televised debates, citing national security concerns. No evidence was provided, just threats. One regulator's handwritten notes from the meeting read, 10 Downing Street wants them erased from the narrative. But the interference went deeper. Internal Labour documents show Starmer's team drafted legislation to retroactively change campaign finance rules, a move that would have disqualified Reform UK from receiving millions in public funding. When party lawyers warned this was illegal, Starmer allegedly replied, "Make it legal." The Supreme Court called this a flagrant assault on electoral integrity. Worse, leaked Cabinet Office files reveal Starmer's staff compiled dossiers on Reform UK donors, then had HMRC launch random audits against them. One businessman testified his company was raided by tax authorities just days after donating to Reform. The pattern was undeniable. This wasn't governance. It was political warfare waged from the Prime Minister's office. The most damning proof came from an unexpected source, Starmer's own former Director of Communications. In a sworn affidavit, she confessed to overseeing a black ops unit that planted fake scandals about Reform leaders in friendly media outlets. "We called it Operation Redfold," she admitted. The goal was to make Nigel Farage unelectable by Christmas. These revelations have ignited fury across the political spectrum. Even moderate Tory MPs now accuse Starmer of Putin-style election rigging, while civil liberties groups warn Britain is sliding into soft dictatorship. The Supreme Court's findings leave no ambiguity. Starmer didn't just fail to uphold democracy, he actively tried to dismantle it. As constitutional experts scramble to assess the damage, one terrifying question remains: how many other parties were targeted? And with Starmer still refusing to resign despite the court's order, Britain now faces its gravest democratic crisis since the Civil War. The walls may be closing in, but the Prime Minister seems determined to take the whole system down with him. Britain's political crisis has escalated into uncharted territory, as Buckingham Palace faces mounting pressure to intervene in what legal scholars are calling the most severe constitutional standoff in 300 years. With Keir Starmer defiantly refusing the Supreme Court's resignation order, the ancient mechanisms of the British Constitution are being tested to their breaking point. Behind the gilded doors of Windsor Castle, emergency meetings are underway between the King's private secretaries and the country's most senior constitutional experts. The nuclear option is now on the table, the royal prerogative to dismiss a sitting Prime Minister, a power not used since 1834. Palace insiders report the King has been briefed on 3 possible scenarios, each more explosive than the last. The first would see a royal ultimatum delivered through back channels, giving Starmer 48 hours to resign voluntarily. The second involves the King publicly withdrawing support during the state opening of Parliament. The third, and most extreme, would be an unprecedented televised address to the nation declaring Starmer's government illegitimate. The constitutional earthquake has already begun. The Lord Speaker has invoked obscure parliamentary procedures to recall the House of Lords without government approval. Meanwhile, the Cabinet Secretary has taken the extraordinary step of locking down access to the nuclear codes, citing concerns about the Prime Minister's mental state. Whitehall is in chaos as civil servants openly defy ministerial orders, with one permanent secretary telling reporters, "We serve the Crown, not this rogue administration." The military has reportedly been placed on standby, with senior generals privately warning Defence Secretary Shapps they will not obey unlawful commands. Even the Church of England has broken its traditional neutrality, with the Archbishop of Canterbury declaring from the pulpit of Westminster Abbey that no leader is above God's law. Starmer's response has been characteristically combative. In a late-night address from Downing Street, he accused the establishment of a silent coup and threatened to purge the civil service of disloyal elements. But his words rang hollow as another cabinet minister resigned live on BBC News, calling Starmer a danger to democracy. The financial markets have begun reacting to the instability, with the pound crashing to its lowest level since the 2008 crisis. International allies are quietly preparing contingency plans, with US State Department officials reportedly drawing up lists of alternative British contacts should the government collapse. The coming hours will determine whether Britain remains a constitutional monarchy or descends into uncharted territory. As the ancient mechanisms of state creak under pressure they were never designed to bear, one horrifying realization is dawning on politicians and public alike. The rules no longer apply. When a prime minister rejects the courts, when the civil service revolts, when even the military hesitates, what remains of British democracy? The answer may come not from Westminster, but from a 74-year-old monarch facing the most consequential decision of his reign. The unthinkable has become inevitable. The Crown versus the Commons, with the soul of a nation at stake. The United Kingdom stands on the knife's edge of constitutional collapse as Keir Starmer makes his final desperate play to cling to power. In an extraordinary escalation, the Prime Minister has ordered government lawyers to file an emergency injunction against the Supreme Court's ruling, a move legal experts are calling an open declaration of war on British democracy. Downing Street sources reveal Starmer has spent the night in crisis meetings with his dwindling inner circle, where options ranging from calling a snap election to suspending Parliament were reportedly discussed. The atmosphere inside Number 10 is described as apocalyptic, with aides burning documents and senior advisors resigning mid-meeting. Meanwhile, armoured vehicles have been spotted near the Supreme Court building, while protesters, now numbering in the tens of thousands, have begun erecting barricades outside Westminster. The international community has reacted with stunned alarm. The White House issued an unprecedented statement expressing deep concern over the breakdown of Britain's constitutional order, while European leaders hastily convened an emergency summit to discuss contingency plans. Most damningly, King Charles III has cut short his Balmoral holiday and returned to London, a move palace historians confirm has no modern precedent outside wartime. Constitutional authorities whisper that the monarch is preparing to exercise the ancient right of dismissal, last used against Lord Melbourne in 1834. The armed forces have entered the crisis, with the Chief of Defence Staff quietly repositioning troops and reportedly refusing 3 calls from the Prime Minister. In Whitehall, civil servants are operating under caretaker protocols, effectively freezing Starmer's ability to govern while maintaining essential state functions. At the heart of this maelstrom stands Starmer himself, once the embodiment of legal propriety, now accused of morphing into the very tyranny he vowed to oppose. His final television address, delivered with hollow eyes and trembling hands, rang with the desperation of a man who knows the game is up.
"They want me gone because I threatened the establishment," he declared, unaware the broadcast was being simultaneously fact-checked on screen by the BBC. As he spoke, the Attorney General became the 15th cabinet member to resign, live tweeting her departure letter with the hashtag #NotInMyName. The financial markets have gone into freefall, with the pound losing 8% of its value overnight and the Bank of England suspending trading twice. The coming hours will determine whether Britain remains a functioning democracy or descends into constitutional anarchy. With the Supreme Court preparing contempt proceedings, the King consulting ancient constitutional texts, and the military establishing an emergency command centre, one truth has become undeniable. Keir Starmer may still occupy 10 Downing Street, but he no longer governs the United Kingdom. The only question remaining is whether his exit will come through resignation, dismissal or arrest, and what scars this crisis will leave on Britain's battered democracy. As midnight approaches, the nation holds its breath, knowing that when dawn breaks, their country may be fundamentally altered forever. The dust has settled over Westminster, but Britain will never be the same. In the 72 hours since Keir Starmer was forcibly removed from 10 Downing Street by royal decree, marking the first time in nearly 2 centuries a monarch has dismissed a sitting Prime Minister, the political landscape has undergone a seismic shift. The Supreme Court's historic intervention has rewritten the rules of British governance, creating what constitutional scholars are calling the new settlement. Parliament now sits under emergency protocols, with an all-party interim government, led by a crossbench coalition of senior MPs. The Labour Party has imploded, with over 60 MPs resigning, the whip and party funding frozen amid fraud investigations. Meanwhile, Reform UK's polling has surged to 34% as Nigel Farage positions himself as the standard-bearer of a new politics. The institutional fallout is equally staggering. The Metropolitan Police has announced a special task force to investigate potential criminal charges against Starmer and 17 former ministers. Scotland Yard detectives were seen entering several high-end London properties linked to the disgraced Prime Minister's inner circle, while forensic accountants continue tracing millions through offshore networks. The Bank of England has taken the extraordinary step of freezing all accounts connected to the scandal, including several belonging to major Labour donors. Across Whitehall, a clean hands operation is underway, with over 200 civil servants reassigned or suspended. The most shocking revelation: secret recordings from inside Number 10 that allegedly capture Starmer discussing plans to prorogue Parliament if the courts ruled against him, a move constitutional experts say would have triggered a full-blown constitutional crisis. Public anger has crystallised into mass mobilisation. Over 500,000 protesters gathered in London for what organisers called the March for Democracy, while local councils report unprecedented numbers of citizens registering to vote. Bookmakers have stopped taking bets on an early general election, after the interim government confirmed one will be held within 90 days. Social media platforms are flooded with viral videos of citizens burning their Labour membership cards, while the hashtag #JarksNeverAgain trends globally. The international community watches with bated breath as Germany and France quietly prepare contingency plans for potential British market instability. Even the royal family has broken tradition, with Buckingham Palace issuing an unprecedented statement affirming the Crown's constitutional role in safeguarding democracy. Yet amid the chaos, troubling questions remain unanswered. How did Britain's checks and balances fail so catastrophically? Why did so many in Starmer's party ignore warning signs? And most crucially, what stops this from happening again? The interim government has already proposed sweeping reforms: a new constitutional court with powers to remove wayward PMs, mandatory financial audits for all senior politicians, and direct oversight of party funding. But as the nation takes its first shaky steps toward recovery, one lesson burns brighter than all others: no leader, no party, and no ideology is worth sacrificing democracy for. The British people have spoken with one thunderous voice: never again. The final chapter of this saga has yet to be written. With criminal trials looming, a nation rebuilding its institutions, and an election that could redraw the political map, Britain stands at a crossroads between its past and an uncertain future. But one truth now stands unshakable: the events of these fateful days will echo through British history for generations to come. The age of blind trust in leaders is over. The era of accountability has begun.